Welcome to our Sunday morning meditation service. I always do the daily word because this is the foundation of unity, this little magazine. And you start your day with it, and you just write that affirmation somewhere where you look at it during the day so that you stay centered. So, I claim dominion and direct the course of my life. Whether I'm organizing my day or moving forward after making a life-altering decision, the principle of dominion is always mine to claim. Knowing this, I move through life with quiet confidence. I am secure in myself and in the knowledge I am a divine being. I claim dominion and feel my life expand into a field of limitless possibility and potential. So, we're going to do chanting, which, just kind of lifts your spirit. And I start my day just listening to sacred music, and I read the Course sometimes we do daily word. But anything that just settles you down and you start your day with a feeling of the presence, and you have this statement that goes throughout your day, it helps you be centered. And then the more you do that, the more that inner voice starts guiding you. You literally get these thoughts that are so clear on what you're supposed to do at the time you're doing it, and you are now in that presence living. So we're going to do a chant, and we just want to feel that presence. And I see that I did not bring my bowl out, and so you will be seeing me moving that onto the stage when he starts to speak. So I'm not always organized.
So, Josh hasn't done the sound check. You move the mic out of the way, too.
Oh, so we won't have a mic?
I got it right here. I can set it up real quick.
Okay, so I'll run and do that while he's walking on, okay, and you can... Okay. All right, well, we're all set. Okay, we're doing it right in front of you, right? Okay.
Bye. Good morning, everyone. Let us begin this morning with this PowerPoint, which we used to conclude last Sunday's class in healing. This is from the Course in Miracles text, page 192 in the old text. In the new edition, it's on page 208. It is impossible not to believe what you see, but it is equally impossible to see what you do not believe. Perceptions are built up upon the basis of experience, and experience leads to beliefs. It is not until beliefs are fixed that perceptions stabilize. In effect, then, what you believe, you do see. That is what I meant when I said, "Blessed are ye who have not seen and still believe. For those who believe in the resurrection will see it." The resurrection is the complete triumph of Christ over the ego, not by attack, but by transcendence. Can we take this back again, please? This, by the way, is a very cogent description Okay, you're fired, both of you. How dare they interfere? This is a clear and cogent description of the spiritual journey. So that, I guess you could say it takes faith and then belief to start to transcend the thinking that we were born and raised in. That thinking has become our collective perceptions and our personal perceptions. So it is impossible not to believe what you see, but it is equally impossible to see what you do not believe. That's why trying to convince someone of the spiritual truth who simply doesn't want to participate in experimenting with his or her own awareness will never come to the healing, the truth, the joy, and the majesty of true life. That'll never happen until one is open to see the possibility that it is a transformation in beliefs that is required to enter into the kingdom of heaven, which is not far off some other place, but in our midst. Okay, I guess we don't have to see the rest of this. I'll tell you a story about a world in which God placed a violin and a bow with the hopes that the people in that world would eventually learn how to make beautiful music. And in fact, every child that was born had a tiny violin and a tiny bow put in their crib, along with a very hard rubber ball. And as the child grew up, the parents would teach the child how to use the violin and the bow and the tiny rubber ball. And the only reason why they had the tiny rubber ball in that crib was because the parents believed that the violin was a racket that should be used for racquetball. And the bow was to be used as a pool stick to shoot pool. And so not only the parents, but the peers and the teachers and all the authority figures in that world grew up believing that racquetball was the thing that everyone was to be involved in. And they had to use their violin as best as they could to become great racquetball players. And the best of the racquetball players were paid a lot of money. And the best of the pool shooters using the bow were paid a lot of money as they grew up and carried on in this life. And of course, the goal for every young person, every young racquetball player was to get to the Olympics. But to get to the Olympics, what would happen in that country is they kept speeding up the game of racquetball, and they made the courts shorter and shorter so that you had to be really a great, quick racquetball player to get to the Olympics and then go on to become a celebrity in the racquetball world. And all this went on for centuries. And not very many people questioned why the violins that were used as rackets were always made with strings, metal strings on it. Nobody questioned it for centuries. It was all about racquetball. And then if people got older, they'd switch from racquetball because they couldn't keep up with the tension. They had to go to tennis. Then they went to ping pong, but always using the violin as a racket. But then one day, a young man named Jesse started to fool around with the knobs at the end of that racket. And he started to tighten some of the strings. And he got a better sound out of them than the sound that the strings made whenever you hit the ball in the racquetball competition. And he played around with it a little bit more, and he managed to tune those strings so that he could use a pool stick, which was a bow, and he could make some kind of beautiful sounds come out of that racket. And as he went on and experimented with it, he could make more and more beautiful sounds. And after about a year, this is what Jesse was able to create with that racquetball racket and pool stick. Can we have that, Josh? And so Jesse began to go around sharing this new approach to this racket and this pool stick, this new approach, and playing this music. And some people thought it was so incredible that they began to follow him and wanted to learn how they could make their racket and their cue stick make beautiful music like that. So they followed him, and he started to develop a really large following, and more people were playing music, which was the reason why God in the beginning put a violin and a bow into that creation. So more and more people were there listening and playing the music. And they'd even go and they gave up playing racquetball. And so less and less racquetballs were being manufactured and fewer racquetball courts. Although racquetball remained very popular, there was fewer of them, and the balls and the equipment and the nets that went with racquetball, they were selling less and less. And those manufacturers became upset with what was happening. And they started to spread the word that this was heresy. This was not meant to be, that this thing that Jesse created was all wrong. It wasn't what life was supposed to be. And they managed, after a matter of time, to get people to turn against Jesse and his music. And they crucified him. But many never forgot. Never forgot the music. And so in their own way, they went underground and they taught the music that God really wanted to take place in this creation. About 10 years ago, a spiritual teacher that traveled around the United States stopped in Boulder, and he gave a seminar that lasted 15 minutes only. At the seminar, he promised he would give people that attended for $150. He would give them a single statement of truth that would transform their minds and bring their consciousness into the enlightened state of awareness with just a single line of truth. And he was talking about, entire transformation of a person's mind and consciousness. Pretty phenomenal. Lots of people attended that seminar. But I myself and every spiritual teacher just about that's worth his weight in salt taught the same thing about the necessity for a person to be transformed in mind in order to come into the beautiful, joyful life that they were meant to live in. And I was just thinking the other day as we looked out at the world, I did, how much suffering there is in the world, not just suffering, but useless, unnecessary suffering. It is unbelievable the amount of useless, unnecessary suffering that is self-imposed by people on themselves and others because of their beliefs. And their beliefs are deluded and flawed because they're false beliefs. But people have embraced them the same way of the people in that world embraced racquetball and never even questioned the fact that those rackets kept breaking mid-game and those pool cues kept busting up long before the game was over, but they kept replacing them. But in our world, we seem to try to look away from and ignore the fact that so much suffering is self-imposed and useless because it is self-imposed and could be changed. But we continue on in the false teachings of the authority figures, who, like the authority figures in that particular parable, they made the racquetball. They made the nets. They built the racquetball courts. And to them, the most important thing was keeping that foolish, suffering, creating game going. But here's this guy shows up and says with a single line of spiritual truth, one could transform his or her consciousness. And as I said, down through the ages, there have been those master teachers who know and have taught that you have to transform your consciousness if you want to find the life you were created to live. And I was among them. And some of the things that we have shared, I mean, all the masters worth their weight in salt shared the same truths. But none of them ever stated that it could be accomplished with a single line of truth the way Dmitri Alcott was the name of the guy, said he gave this workshop, seminar. So we should really look at what really is required to find life and find it abundantly as the scripture says it exists for those who enter into the truth that will make them free. Truth that has been around for centuries from the beginning. But now we're getting this truth and we have a very clear way to understand it from A Course in Miracles. Let's take a look at this PowerPoint. This is what our transformation is all about and what the problem is that we meet in life. You can read this in the workbook on lesson 132, paragraphs 1 to 3. What keeps the world in chains but your beliefs? And what can save the world except yourself with a capital S? Belief is powerful indeed. The thoughts you hold are mighty, and delusions are as strong in their effects as the truth. A madman thinks the world he sees is real and does not doubt it, nor can he be swayed by questioning his thoughts. And we have the rest of this? What? There's a computer problem? Kick it. All right. Okay. If you come up with it, let me know, because my entire talk is based on this. It's okay. I will tell you, I have an advantage over most of the people that, attend Unity these days, because I grew up in a very limited level of consciousness, in a ghetto where people really were, you could consider them ignorant of any kind of reality. Even the people in the neighborhood I grew up in actually believed that stealing was okay. The general consciousness there was that everybody steals. Even the very rich are stealing in their own way. So it's okay. And the way to get self-esteem in that particular neighborhood of mine was, if you could get by with stealing or fighting in some way, you were considered to be pretty wise. You pulled it off. So that's what I grew up with, the thinking of that. And so my advantage is the fact that as I grew up, and as you grow up, you're supposed to be somewhat awake to your own thinking and your own experience, which I was somewhat awake. And as I was growing up, it became more and more evident to me that the people around me were stupid. I mean, I was pulling petty crimes with some guys that were, I considered, really stupid, because they kept making the stupidest mistakes and creating troubles and problems in our efforts to steal effectively. I mean, you'd break in an entry into a factory of some kind. We never made a lot of money doing this. Did you ever come up with this stuff? 'Cause yeah, have you got number 2 or 3 on there?
2.
You have 2?
Yes, 2.
All right, let's have it. Effects. It is but when the source is raised to question that the hope of freedom comes to him at last. That is, comes to the madman at last, when you question the source of his insanity. Yet is salvation easily achieved, for anyone is free to change his mind, and all his thoughts change with it. Now the source of thought has shifted, for to change your mind means you have changed the source of all ideas. You think, or even you think of, or every thought, what the heck is that? You think, or every thought, or yet will think. All right, take it back to the other, okay. Let me get this sentence right. Now the source of thought has shifted, for to change your mind means you have changed the source of all ideas you think, or ever thought, or yet will think. You free the past from what you thought before. You free the future from all ancient thoughts of seeking what you do not want to find. The present now remains the only time. Can we take this back again, please, to the beginning? If you see what is being said here, this is the analogy of life in the illusion of our false concepts and false definition of life. Now, if you're just simply casually curious about this stuff, I don't believe you're going to have any kind of direct experience in changing your life for the better. If you're just casually interested and your personal self-interest precede and overplay these truths, then you're probably not going to take to task your own awareness and practice on faith to see what would happen if you really changed your mind. But in any case, this is for anyone who's open yet at this time and willing. What keeps the world in chains is but your beliefs. That's the truth, period. The suffering you're looking upon throughout the world is caused by the limited beliefs embraced, entertained, and passed on from one to another in the consciousness of the unenlightened human beings on planet Earth. And what can save the world but yourself, with a capital S, which is a different self than the small s self, which is a definition of the ego-centered, body-encapsulated self. Belief is powerful indeed. The thoughts you hold are mighty, and illusions are as strong in their effects as is the truth. So the racquetball games playing on in your mind are just as effective as you believe in them as the people in that strange world. A madman thinks the world he sees is real and does not doubt it, nor can he be swayed by questioning his thoughts' effects. It is but when their source is raised to question that the hope of freedom comes to him at last. Yet is salvation easily achieved, for anyone is free to change his mind, and all his thoughts change with it. Now the source of thought has shifted, for to change your mind means you have changed the source of all ideas you think or ever thought or yet will think. You free the past from what you thought before. You free the future from all ancient thoughts of seeking what you do not want to find. The present now remains the only time. It was so beautiful and rewarding for me at the lunch that was served following the memorial service yesterday, when I talked to 2 or 3 people who told me how they in their lives had always held negative feelings towards people that were doing wrong and doing bad things, and specifically when it came to people in their own lives that were doing things that interfered with their point of view and how things should go, but that now, operating in the unity truth, they were instead pronouncing everyone, regardless of what they were doing, as innocent, unknowing of the truth. They're still innocent, but unknowing of the truth of what they are doing to themselves, to their lives. Innocent, but unknowing of the truth. Self-imposed suffering in the illusions of the outer-directed world. So it was very rewarding to hear that people are beginning to take to task their awareness, and they're finding there's a harmony and a peace and a beauty in their relationships that is occurring. So the racket for racquetball is becoming a violin at last, which is what God really always wanted. It's why truth remains in the world and can never go away. Did you know that? Did you know that this carpenter's son said that? My words will never go away. Wow. We still have the carpenter's son's words. They will never go away. It's like the violin. We just have to apply them in our consciousness, in our lives, to find life truly worth living. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? This is lesson 78 in the Course in Miracles workbook. Perhaps it is not yet quite clear to you that each decision that you make is one between a grievance and a miracle. Each grievance stands like a dark shield of hate before the miracle it would conceal. And as you raise it up before your eyes, you will not see the miracle beyond. Yet all the while it waits for you in light. But you behold your grievances instead. Today we go beyond the grievances to look upon the miracle instead. We will reverse the way you see by not allowing sight to stop before it sees. We will not wait before the shield of hate, but lay it down and gently lift our eyes in silence to behold the sacred vision of life. That whenever you see anything in quotes, it's my words placed in there. So, can we take this back again, please? Perhaps it is not yet quite clear to you that each decision you make is one between a grievance and a miracle. And this is where taking to task one's awareness actually occurs. We have to be awake enough and faithful enough to catch the mind when it's holding a grievance of any kind against anyone or anything. Are you capable of pausing? Do you have the strength in awareness to pause when you recognize your mind is now mulling over some grievance? Stop, stop. You're blocking the joy and beauty of true forgiveness and release, which not only goes out to everything around you, but goes within you and leads you into the miracle of being alive, truly alive. So you see, that's where it is. If you don't take anything else out of here, if you don't take anything else from Unity, if you leave Unity Spiritual Center and never come back, take this with you. You have to have the faith to pause whenever you are contemplating a grievance. Period. The end of all strange and stupid religion. It's right there. Do you want life and want it abundantly the way God created it for you to live? If you're still hesitating on that, I said there's no hope that you'll ever find that life, because it's all coming from within you, being projected outward on the world you look upon. Perhaps it's not yet quite clear to you that each decision that you make in life is one between a grievance and a willingness for a miracle. Each grievance stands like a dark shield of hate before the miracle it would conceal. And as you raise it up before your eyes, you will not see the miracle beyond. Yet all the while it waits for you in light. But you behold your grievances instead. Today we go beyond the grievances to look upon the miracle instead. The miracle of life, true life. We will reverse the way you see by not allowing sight to stop before it sees. Watch that line. We will reverse the way you see by not allowing sight to stop before it sees. And it's also written in that amazing set of books, the ego always speaks first. Always. What's ever happening out there, when it's going a certain way, the ego speaks. The ego speaks. The ego knows. The ego says this. That's the definition of my separate self in relationship to all the phenomena around me. There's my separate self that knows. I'm an objective observer. I see this. That's wrong. You're wrong. You should have known better. Die to that. Kill it in your spiritual practice. Kill the grievances that visit you over and over again in your illusionary definition of being a separate self in a world of separate others. Kill it and live. So we will reverse the way you see by not allowing the ego to stop before sight sees. We will not wait before the shield of hate and grievance, but lay it down and gently lift our eyes in silence to behold the sacred vision of life. And all you have to do today is believe in the possibility of this truth. And you have to have the willingness to believe in that possibility. And you know, you're living in this world that is now revealing so much suffering, and so much of it is simply self-imposed by unenlightened people and unenlightened teachers and unenlightened parents and unenlightened peers who have so long been playing racquetball with the violin. They so long have been misusing their minds to create noise and havoc and chaos. And so the way people try to escape from this ongoing drudgery of consciousness That's the second time I've been interfered with. Okay, you're fired too, Josh. How dare you interfere? These people don't know. They're all unenlightened, and they've been here so long. So, that's the challenge I am putting out there. The world is, 95% of all the suffering in the world is man-made. It's the underlying sin of all sins, the illusion of the separate body-mind having to be a separate objective observer and simply looking upon its own limited projections. So we're going to pause and meditate, one of the great spiritual practices, where we release the thinking of the world. And we don't try to stop the mind from thinking. We simply rest it. We relax it. And as we do that, your core nature, the truth of you, the music in you, rises up. And if you allow it to rise more and more, you start to feel good for no apparent reason. And that is your way out of the racquetball consciousness of the outer-directed, illusion-driven, self-imposed suffering world. So as we listen to this crystal bowl, the first thing to do is become okay. Because if you feel okay, you're willing to at least give some room for others to be okay. So start to feel okay. You're okay, just as you are. I mean, there's no vengeance in the universe. All suffering is created by one's limited understanding of reality. So now if you start to feel okay, you're entering reality. Sit here and say, all right, I'm just sitting here in this sanctuary, feeling okay. And don't try to stop your thinking, but just let it rest. And if thoughts come in, just look upon them as you might look upon a parade, a colorless, soundless, uninteresting parade of thoughts. Just let them come and go, and bring your mind to this truth. Just bring your mind gently to this truth. Everything I look upon, everything I see, is only my consciousness looking back at me. Everything I look upon and everything I see is only my consciousness looking back at me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only my consciousness looking back at me. from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with an open-minded willingness to take to task our own awareness and catch any inference of grievance when it comes to mind. To catch any inference of a grievance when it comes to mind. So it is. Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we're preparing to do this, I'd like to say to the people watching on the live stream, we're getting more people at this service and more people at the second service who are braving it in whatever way they have to brave it. We really invite you to do that. Come in and be part of this physically on Sundays and Wednesdays. And you can tithe to Unity of Boulder in this way. Let's read these down. You have all these ways to tithe. And you can also look online right now where you are and scroll down. There's an area on that site where you can donate. So let us bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to keep the truth alive in the world of racquetball players. And let's bless this tithe with this offering prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen. We will have a discussion group in Fellowship Hall on the dance floor area in there. It takes me about 7 minutes to get over there, stop over here and take a, The bookstore is open, so you can go through these doors to your left into the bookstore and shop for a while. You can go that to your right and go into Fellowship Hall and partake of some of the treats that we have there, refreshments, and then join me in the discussion group where you can bring up anything you want to bring up for discussion having to do with this service or unity altogether. And to all of you, thanks for showing up physically. You're helping to make a difference here. Have a beautiful day.